is Elizabeth McIsaac. Thank you for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Elizabeth McIsaac. I'm the president of Maytree, which is an organization in Toronto dedicated to advancing systemic solutions to poverty through a human rights-based approach. My comments today are in response to the proposed priorities and actions in the city's 2022 to 2026 Housing Action Plan. By way of introduction, and as some of you will know, Maytree has worked closely with the city on housing initiatives, multi-tenant housing, the role and function of a housing commissioner, and others, elements of which are included in the Housing Action Plan. Our approach has been and continues to be to support the city in its efforts to address the needs of those living in deepest poverty and housing need. We believe that through a human rights-based approach to housing, many of the challenges confronting the city today can be addressed. At its core, a human rights-based approach requires us to center the person or communities whose rights are in question. It is in this spirit that I'm speaking to you today on the proposed Housing Action Plan's work plan, which presents a robust set of activities and goals to move the marker on the structural supply challenges that the city is facing. My comments today will be focused on the framework for this action. In adopting the Housing Charter and the Housing TO 2020 to 2030 Action Plan, the city committed itself to recognizing adequate housing as a fundamental human right and to the progressive realization of that right. The Charter and Plan provided guiding principles for how the city should approach housing in all its dimensions and including its plans and its activities. While I recognize that the city is still creating and implementing some of the mechanisms to guide this work, it is nonetheless obliged by this commitment to apply this framework to the development and approval of plans such as the Housing Action Plan before you today. As it has been noted, housing is a complex system and exists within a dynamic market, and we know that. And we know that action at one end of the housing continuum has effects on the other. And so while it is clear that the focus of this 4-year plan is on dramatically increasing supply from a human rights-based approach, it is imperative to ensure that housing supply options are available at every level of affordability. For example, the absence of a priority area dedicated to developing and preserving deeply affordable housing represents a notable gap in the Housing Action Plan. Evidence from the city's rental housing roundtable shows that there is a need for more non-market, deeply affordable solutions to support those in greatest need. Similarly, while Council approved the city's new multi-tenant housing policy framework in December, the Housing Action Plan only speaks to the application of this new policy as a subset of preserving the overall rental housing stock. More attention to this area of work would ensure that those in greatest need remain a priority. It's a question of emphasis. Although the city staff report does note that the Housing Action Plan will complement the Housing TO plan, it is not clear how it will do so, how priorities will be set, which policy actions will take precedence. Nor does it make explicit how the actions outlined will reflect a human rights-based approach to housing and therefore ensure that people in housing need are served by the plan. And critically, there is no locus of accountability at the city to ensure that the plan, that the Housing TO Action Plan and the proposed Housing Action Plan and the many other plans noted in the report are functioning together to achieve the progressive realization of the right to adequate housing. The city has a lot going on. Where do we pull it up together? Without this, there's a good chance that the extensive and complex set of actions outlined in the individual plans will not work together, not solve the city's housing crisis. Most importantly, that those in greatest need, in greatest housing need, will continue to have their rights compromised. We know a Deputy Ombudsman of Housing is being proposed to Council. We know that the Housing Action Plan recommends a Council Housing Advisory Committee on the right to housing. But it is critical that there is a point of accountability, of human rights accountability, resourced and capable of ensuring that the priorities set and the balance of housing investment made reflects the progressive realization of the right to housing in Toronto. So to this end, we recommend 3 things. 1, ensure that the Housing Action Plan is guided explicitly by by the recognition that adequate housing is a fundamental human right and a human rights framework to further the progressive realization of this right as per the Housing Charter. Second, develop a specific priority area within the Housing Action Plan's work plan to support deeply affordable rental housing. This area could include the actions identified by the city's rental housing roundtable, such as ways to support nonprofit and purchase of existing affordable rental buildings. And finally, develop a comprehensive articulation of what all the plans together mean. That is, what is their potential cumulative impact, ensuring that the plans don't operate in silos, and to this end, consider the allocation of the city's overall fiscal and resource capacity in order to realize the right to housing for everyone in Toronto. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there questions of the Deputy?